Hello YouTubers and welcome aboard. I am Noob Flyboy X and welcome back to F1 2018 Career Mode. Here we are at the Singapore Grand Prix and I just want to show off something real quick. There we can see the development change, or the R&D change for next year. It is the aero department, so that's a bit of a problem for us because we kind of rely on the upgrades we've already made to the aerodynamics. At the same time, though, I know we've actually got the worst chassis on the grid at the moment, so I'm looking to upgrade things to do with that at the same time, so I'm really kind of swamped for what to do here. Coming on to the end of Free Practice 3, we have a bit of action in a practice session for the first time in a while. We can see one of the Red Bulls and Sergio Perez actually getting turned around here on the circuit, so having to take a little bit of evasive action and slow down to avoid that incident. And lastly, before we get to qualifying, here we can see the performance chart from, what we've been doing since Italy. We've improved a little bit, but everyone else has as well, so we are currently the lowest performing car on the track. You could see briefly there some upgrades that I've got in the works that will both be coming for the Russian Grand Prix. Still though, here's our first lap in qualifying. Good enough to get us through to Q2 pretty easily. The rain has started, so we're going to have an interesting session coming up here. Here, coming now to the end of our best lap in Q2, we can see the rain has started to fall, but it's not bad just yet. I was actually on a pretty good lap before the rain began right there at the end, so it's a 1.5 second improvement. And I know no one else will get better because heavy rain will actually start falling at the end there. I've made a critical mistake though, but that's starting on hyper soft tires. So I'm going to have to start with those in the race. Coming now to the first lap in Q3, we've set it on wet tires, and that's actually an issue. The track will start to dry out toward the end, and better times will be set on inters. So I'm down in 10th place, and I'm going to suffer some grid penalties anyway.
Hello and welcome one and all to the shining streets of Singapore. Can you believe we've been coming here for nearly a decade now? It feels like only yesterday that Felipe Massa was dragging his fuel hose down the pit lane in that eventful opening race, and in a Grand Prix won from pole position more often than not, will we see a new victor crowned today? With that then, let's run through the grid order. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, and P2 goes to Daniel Ricciardo. A strong showing from the Australian. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hulkenberg, Ocon, Marcus Ericsson and Magnussen, Bottas, Sainz, Raikkonen and Sebastian Vettel. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Verstappen, Alonso, Charles Leclerc and Van Dorn, Grosjean, Perez, Brendan Hartley and Pierre Gasly. Iceman and Lance Stroll rounds off the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Well, I'm going to try not to let you down, Jeff, but we're starting on hypersoft tires, and that is not good. That's really not good at all. That means I'm going to have to make an extra stop, whereas others around me are going to be able to just make one. But here we go to 5 red lights, long set of lights, and away we go. I'm hoping to make up positions early. That's the only shot I'm going to have at much here, unless some other people are able to, other people get slowed down later on and I'm able to make up time. But here we go. I've actually lost out early on to both the Toro Rossos and to my teammate, who are scrapping there, and I actually get pushed into the wall a little bit because of that. I'm on softer rubber than Stroll, so I'm trying to make the move up the inside here. It's actually being quite tricky there. For some reason I'm not able to get the power and the grip together, so I slide over to the inside and Stroll actually gets the better of me. In rich revs, trying to make up ground, but I can't make up quite enough, I think, about a move, but it looks like it would be a bit too dangerous. Much though I want to make up the position. There we go. I dive to the inside, but Stroll is still right there. I think I'm just going to have to be patient. Though I want to make this overtake, I have to be conscious that we're teammates here, and we want both cars to come home even if we don't score points. Consistency is a good thing here. On lap 2, though, we're finally closing up to the back of Stroll. Here we go to the outside of the slight corner on the main straightaway here, and we dive to the inside in the braking zone, squeeze him out a little bit, and we've got that place. So we're trying to look forward from here. On the end of that lap, though, it's already the first retirement from the Grand Prix is Romain Grosjean there on one of the back straightaways, one of the shorter straights there. So we've already got a free place out of that, but there's not going to be any more free places, I don't think. So we're going to have to work hard. Here's Gasly on the straightaway as well. I've got DRS now as we're on lap 4. easily around the outside of him on that little corner, just like with Stroll. And we're up one more position into 17th, looking to move on from here. We have our pit stop, though, to get off of those awful hyper softs. They wear horrendously quickly. So by the end of lap 5, or the beginning of lap 5 rather, I've been through the pits to get them off and get onto a set of soft compound tires. Thank goodness I'm onto those. So now that we're onto those, we can see some other people have already made their pit stops and have come out ahead of me, so that's pretty unfortunate. Marcus Ericsson, though, in the Sauber in front of me, is actually going to make a pit stop here fairly soon. He's on a fairly soft set of tires, so he's actually going to be able to make that pit stop fairly early on, and I get one position out of that. But from there, everyone else seems to have pace ahead of me. They're on ultra soft tires, and those have better pace than the softs that I'm running with. These are the hardest compound available on this track, so I'm going to have to make do with those. And this is what my race looks like for quite a while. It's an empty track around me up until about lap 12, lap 13, when some people have started to make their stops. Sebastian Vettel is in the pits. He's a ways down. I can see Brendan Hartley in the Toro Rosso. I was just about to catch him before I made my pit stop, so there's not really any change in position here. Here he comes. He's kind of cut me off there, so I'm going to have to work a little bit harder to pass him. I've got some acceleration going into this corner here, but not quite enough to get past on the outside. I've got DRS now, though, so hopefully that's going to be able to get me past him. I'm in his slipstream, rich revs going, all the things that we're familiar with in the Williams, the way we best know how to make overtakes. So there we go, into the braking zone, around the outside this time, force him onto a narrower line. So he's going to have to apply the brakes a bit more liberally than he would have wanted to and slow him down. And we've made that overtake. Because of his superior aerodynamics, though, he's able to stick with me on this technical track, and he's still right there as we get into the DRS zone of the pit straightaway there. Squeeze him out, though, as I'm using that tactic that I was using last season, going to the inside there to break the slipstream and deny him one of the advantages that he has, or that he would have in straight line pace over us. We can see now Sebastian Vettel has actually caught up to us as well. He's joining in the fight here, though I'm still using that same technique. Hartley has gotten a bit closer to me. I just barely managed to squeeze him out on that lap, but he's still got the long straightaway coming up next. It's lap 16. I've started to catch up to Carlos Sainz, though. Sainz has been reported over the radio to have a bit of an issue, so I'm hoping I can pass him here pretty soon. But I've got to worry about these two behind me, because they're very pacey at the moment. I'm having to work hard and look both forwards and backwards to keep my position and make sure I don't lose out to anyone. I'm able to keep ahead on that long straightaway, though, mostly thanks to superior engine power. A little bit later on in that lap, on lap 16, we've come up to the back of Kevin Magnussen, who's got a puncture. He's stricken there. He's going to fall a ways down the order and not really be much of a factor in the rest of this Grand Prix. But we've just about caught up to Sainz. Here we go. I'm trying to make the overtake on him. Same place, rich revs and DRS around the outside of him, the more familiar way we're able to do that, and up the inside. There we go. So we're up to 14th position. We've put another car between us and the charging Sebastian Vettel behind. So that's good. Lance is the next car up in front of us. I'm pretty sure I've got better pace than him. We're both running on fairly worn soft tires at the moment. Mine are a little bit newer. Thing is, though, Vettel has managed to pass the others behind me and goes for the move. He locks up, though, and goes too deep, so I'm able to keep the position for the time being on lap 18. He's on hypersofts, I've noticed, so he's going to have to make another pit stop. He's on 2 stints of hypersofts, I think, which is not a good strategy, I think. But in any case, he's making the move now, or trying to again, and this time he's actually able to control himself under braking a little bit more. So there he goes. I've lost out a little bit. I'm still in P14, though. Charles Leclerc in the Sauber, just out of the pits there behind us. I was briefly ahead of him, so briefly up to P13. We're going to have to see if I can hold Leclerc behind, because he's on fresh ultra softs, which are a pretty good compound. They don't wear like the hypers do, and I'm on the softs. Here goes Leclerc on to make the move on lap 20. He's got a good deal of pace in that Sauber, so I'm going to have to work pretty hard to stay with him. The problem is that with my softs being as old as they are, they're really starting to lose grip. I run very wide in that corner there. Leclerc doesn't get too far before he runs into the back of Lance Stroll in front of us. Lance will dive in for his pit stop because his softs are, of course, older than mine. If my pace is starting to drop off so badly, I can only imagine how bad his is getting at this point. So I'm trying to stay with Leclerc, but I just can't quite manage it. He's pulling away a little bit, and I can't stay with him. out of my second pit stop. I'm now on the Ultra Soft, and I'm going to see where I come out. There goes Brendan Hartley in the Toro Rosso, and there goes Lance Stroll. So there's a bit of a time lost there. So I'm going to have to do some work to get past them and make up more positions. I'm down in 17th at the moment, which is really not where I'd like to be. I am able to catch up to Brendan Hartley pretty quickly as Stroll, with a straight line pace in the Williams, is able to make a move on him. I'm going to make a move in a pretty similar place, similar fashion. Hartley has DRS as well. Moved to the inside, further to the inside than he was defending as usual, but he's still right there on my outside. He's got better acceleration. I dive a little bit later on the brakes into the next corner, squeeze him narrow, so he's forced to give me that position. So I've got up to 16th once again. I'm still behind Stroll. I'd like to be able to catch Carlos Sainz so I can see in the Renault ahead of us, because I think he's still suffering with the issue. The problem is, and I'll demonstrate it a bit here, this is one of the problems that I'm going to run into for the rest of the race. This is pretty much the view I've got, and it's the back of Stroll's Williams. I can't quite make an overtake on him. He's got the same kind of car, the same strengths and same weaknesses. The only thing we've got is that I'm trying to be a little bit clever with my fuel, saving enough so I can use rich revs on the straight and get DRS on him, hoping that will be enough. But as we can see here, on lap 26, we're not far from the end now, it's really not quite enough to get me the advantage enough to pass him. As we come into the braking zone, I have to brake a little early. I don't want to slam into the back of him. I wasn't quite close enough to make a move there. It's really frustrating staying behind him for so long. Here on lap 27, we can see, beginning of lap 28 as well, on the front straightaway it's no better, even though we carry more speed through the final corner onto there. It's a shorter straightaway and less time for the DRS to take effect. Here we go on the main straightaway again. This time I've actually forced Stroll to defend the inside. I try to dive further to the inside. There we go, later on the brakes. But unfortunately, Stroll is there on the outside, just like Hartley was, and he's got good acceleration, same as I do, because it's the same car. I can't quite make the overtake. I've bumped the wall there. There's nothing really I feel like I can do against Stroll in that same kind of car. The only advantage is that we've pulled out a gap from Brendan Hartley and Kevin Magnussen behind us, so there's not really going to be any threat to the end for this position, but this position is all we get. After struggling to get past and failing to for several laps, it's lap 31, end of the Grand Prix, and we have to settle for 16th.
Well, that's a disappointing result for sure, but we'll try to bounce back at the next one.
So in the F1 games, there are of course no team orders, so I couldn't really have called for the pit wall to move Stroll aside for me. And apparently I was frustrated enough that I was just done with the race and forgot to record the podium and Parc Fermé ceremonies. So yeah, that's unfortunate. I can tell you though that Daniel Ricciardo has won the Grand Prix, extending his championship lead. For us though, it's significantly less exciting. Down in 16th position is really not where we want to be. I'm just hoping that at the next race, once we get the couple upgrades that we have on the car, onto the car, then we'll be able to exploit that better performance and go for a better result, make up for that pretty bad time in Singapore. But as always, that has been the Grand Prix for this weekend. Thank you very much for watching, as always, even if it was a bit of a boring one probably. Looking forward to the next one though in Russia. I can promise you that one's better. But again, thanks for watching, and have a nice day.